And then the last thing was that I needed something challenging. Right? I
Mm.
didn't want something easy. I needed something that was going to be mentally stimulate me and stuff like that. You need to be able to find out as efficient as possible the place where you're going to be and then
Yeah.
full commit to that area. The maniacal position I took
Yeah.
is study. Like I would study, I would come back home from like 7 and I would study from like 7 to 12 or 1 every
Yeah.
single, and then I would during lunchtime at work, I used to separate, go study. On Saturdays when my friends wanted to go out, bro, from morning to night, I'm studying. Sunday, go to church. When I come back, studying, bro.
Yo, my guy, Ifeanyi, how you doing today, bro?
Yo, pretty good, man. Doing good. Blessed, man. Blessed to be here.
That's exciting, man. Exciting, bro. One thing I would say before we go, like, before we get started is like, I really love your energy. Like, before we actually got to speak, just the energy from your posts on like LinkedIn or Twitter already knew like you were just like an amazing person. And then when we got to speak, like, it's even way better. So like, super excited to be having this conversation. We've been connected for like quite a while now, you know, just because we're in the cloud industry and everything. And we also have like some mutuals like GPS, Rishabh, and, you know, some other people in the industry. And like, your journey has been incredible, man. Like, you're a beast, man. Insane. And you will be sharing your story and everything, but this is gonna be about, I want us to have a conversation about your journey from being an Olympic level athlete to now a cloud engineer. So the stage is yours. Take it away, man.
Oh man, yeah. Dude, it's a blessing to be here to be with you, man. I mean, just touching base on my entire journey, you know, also includes you in it. You know, even before I even met you,
I'm
like
honored, man.
videos, you know, some of the stuff that you were posting. Like obviously, I'm not necessarily in the security field, but the same mentality that I was getting nuggets and gems from your videos. I mean, you can learn from anybody, right?
Yeah.
But you were in the cloud business, and you know, you were with people like Gwen and Rishabh, and those were the people obviously who helped me a lot through my journey. So like, it's crazy to just be here speaking with you and being on this first name basis. You know, it's insane. You know, it's a blessing, and it's just surreal of the entire journey coming like a circle. And now the people who I was watching is who is even like accepting me as, you know, someone who's in the industry and someone who they can you know, chill with, relax with, talk with, and stuff like that. So yeah, that's big.
Amazing, man.
Man, my journey, there's many versions. There's the long version, there's the short version, there's the middle version, but I'm gonna give you the real version, right?
Yes, I love the real version. Let's do it.
So you guys who don't know, my name is Ifeanyi Otonye. Obviously, you know, the name may look weird to you, but it's Nigerian descent. The full name is Ifeanyi Chukwu Otonye. And I'm very proud of that name because it means something. It means nothing is impossible unto God. And that is, you know, a mantra that I take throughout my life. Kind of looking at, you know, where I am now, you can see a lot of stuff that has been impossible happening. And it's me taking and embodying that mentality that, you know, nothing is impossible, you know, with God. And, you know, basically born in Nigeria, to my Nigerian parents, and then I have two brothers. We actually migrated from Nigeria when I was pretty young, about 4 years old. We migrated to the Caribbean, you know, obviously mainly for my parents and my family. They wanted, you know, better opportunities, so they migrated over here. And, you know, we were blessed to have the opportunity. I think it was only my father had a job at that time, so he basically brought the entire family over. And my mother was also a teacher, right? So we ended up settling in a country called Turks and Caicos Islands, which if you listen to Drake, you hear Drake shout out Turks a lot. Dude is always here, right? Always here. It's like a citizen now. Everybody sees him and he's just a regular person. But if you've heard of Turks and Caicos, there's an island very known for its beaches and, you know, beautiful for tourists to come in and stuff like that. But this is where I've lived. This is where I've grown up my entire life. I went to primary school, high school, graduated high school. But so this is where I really call home, right? Because this is where I left, you know, this is where I made most of my childhood friends. This is where most of the values was instilled in me from my parents, my brothers, and all the people who I've met and mentored me socially, church members and people in the community and stuff like that. So this is where I grew family outside of family, right? But as far as me personally, Tech-wise, I didn't necessarily think technology would have been, or the tech industry or anything tech would have been my future. No, growing up, I was very eccentric child. I was very active, doing a bunch of stuff. I was the type of person where I do say that me, where I am right now, was ascribed to me just always wanting to know how things worked. And I always wanted to try new things to see if I could do it as far as talent and stuff like that. So, I mean, I've done everything from skateboarding, BMX, rollerblading, playing the piano, playing drums. Like I can do everything. Like, people ask me, how are you able to do all that stuff? Growing up, I always felt like doing many different things at the same time.
Yeah.
And actually in school, as a young person, that doesn't work well. They label you as someone who can't focus, someone who can't stay put.
Yeah.
And they throw words like, ADHD and stuff like that. But I was never diagnosed with that. But looking back, I can think and see that maybe I did show symptoms of that. I didn't necessarily couldn't just stick to one thing, but I was always interested in a lot, right? I used to love to draw. I used to love to write, paint. I was very eccentric, right? But my older brothers were the ones that could sit down for 5 hours and study, but I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Right?
I would think that there's somewhat correlation between like having that sort of mind to eventually being in cloud, which I'm sure you'll probably get into, because like there's so many moving pieces in cloud. You have to know like so many things and be able to do so many things. And it's like, that's literally the perfect fit for someone who's going to work in the cloud.
Yeah, nah, exactly, dude. And I'm seeing pieces of that even being part of my strengths, right? Being able to pivot and try and do something else when you need to. But so that's who I was. Going to school, my mother always said I was the smartest child in the house. I never understood it, but she basically said, I now understand. She basically would say, you would spend 1 hour studying and your brothers would spend 4 hours studying. They would do better. They will always come first and second in class. I would come fifth, fourth, but I would put in so much less time because I just couldn't sit down for 4 hours and study. So I would retain more information though. And she just couldn't get it out of me that, listen, if you just stayed for like maybe 2 more hours, you would destroy your brothers and everybody else in the class. But that's just not who I was.
Yeah.
And but at an early age, I realized that I did have natural talent, right? Athletic talent. And I used to do parkour. I used to be flipping off buildings, dude. Like I used to be doing everything, right? But I love doing active stuff. So I remember I did have above average athletic abilities than those in the school. And being from Turks and Caicos, we didn't necessarily have a structured program for like athletics, like training. You have a great coach who was with you from morning, you're lifting weights, all that stuff. Like, no, we didn't. What our training was, come to the track and race everybody, right? That was our training. Yeah. So not having a structured training, not having the best resources and facilities to be able to train at a good level at high school, I had an opportunity to represent the Turks and Caicos at a regional meet. So the entire Caribbean, each country brought their best athlete in a specific event of track and field, by the way, so is the event that I was in. And I did high jump, right? I represented the country in high jump, right? Ended up going there and placing second. I mean, getting a medal, placing second. I mean, going against Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Bahamas, Cuba. Like, these are the best countries in the Caribbean. And I'm coming from Turks with no training, and I come second, and I beat a Jamaican who came third and another one who came first. So I think at that point, this was the year when I graduated high school in Turks and Caicos. At that point, I was like, okay, maybe I have some future in this athletic thing, because these people are training for years. I don't have much training. I just beat them, right? So that's when I think other people started to notice me. And the high school PE teacher I had, who was our coach, he was leaving back to Jamaica. And he decided to say, hey, I think you have great abilities. I think if you come with me to Jamaica and continue high school, we'll be able to hone those abilities and make you into like a great athlete. This was at the age of 16, dude. This dude was basically telling me to leave my home, leave my parents, come to a whole different country to school with him. And long story short, I ended up going to Jamaica, Monroe College. I did 2 years there. They call it six form, A-levels. And I did 2 years there. And in just those 2 years, my athletic abilities went like this. Boom. Exponentially got so much better, dude. It's so insane that if I was there for like 4 years, maybe it would have been even crazier. But in just those 2 years at the high school championships, which is the greatest track and field high school championship in the world, is held in Jamaica. right?
Wow.
So there's a lot of coaches from USA who come down and they scout and they look for people. So that's where a coach found me, and he gave me the opportunity to like say, hey, came up to my coach and say, hey, we like this person. He can long jump. He can run the 4x4. He's very diverse. Like, we can use him for our team, and we want to give him full scholarship to come to our school, full scholarship for 4 years. And at that time, I didn't even think that was possible. I didn't even know that was possible. So yeah, it's like, you're telling me you're going to pay me my entire tuition just so I can run for your school? Yeah. And he was like, yeah. I was like, what? Like, okay, yeah, where do I sign? I said, let's go. So I ended up going to Kansas State University in Kansas, Manhattan, Kansas, and signed a student contract, student athlete contract, whatever, and got a full scholarship for a bachelor's degree to go to Kansas State University, right? So ended up going over there. Very different, growing up, when we went for vacation to the US, it was always Miami, Florida, Universal Studios, Disney World. So when I went to Kansas, like, this is not Florida. Like, what? Yeah. But, I got acclimatized real quick. And that's where I met a lot of my closest friends. Because, during college is the time you become an adult, right? Yeah. And I was there, USA, for about 8 years, right? I was a student athlete. And by my third year, I still loved, by my second year is when I realized, going to school in the United States, I got the best facilities. I mean, the best gyms, the best tracks, the best coaches, everything. But my first year at the Big 12 championships, I came second as a freshman. So I was like ranked like top 5 in the nation for freshmen. And I was like, oh, shoot. Okay. I'm now looking at maybe the next 2 years I can go pro, right? Not just be a good athlete, I can be one of the best in the world. So did that. Then the second year, I kind of plateaued. I didn't do as good as I wanted. But then the third year, I kind of took things into my own hands, and it was a lot. But the third year, I made some changes mentally. And the third year is when I blew up in the USA. I ended up becoming like top two in long jump for international athletes in the entire USA for D1, Division 1, right? And at that point is when I said, yeah, I'm going pro. So I ended up to the national championships and I came top 10, right? And that's against the entire USA, but I was like top 2 for international students. Wow. And so I was like, yeah, okay, cool. This is what I'm gonna put all my effort into. And it's so crazy, but my bachelor's degree, my first semester, I said I was gonna be an electrical engineer. I don't know why, but I chose electrical engineer. So with Nigerian parents, literally, there's only maybe 3 careers for you to be family into the world. Yeah, successful, either a doctor, lawyer, engineer, or accountant, business person making money, right?
Let me add one. Right, it's actually 5. It's a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer, a banker, or a failure.
Our failures, like, dude. And the thing is, my parents, they never really told me that, but you could still feel it in the house, right?
Yeah.
Like, so when I went to school in the US, I said, I'm gonna do electrical engineering. I didn't know why. I just knew, okay, engineering is something. It's cool. They can make some money. Dude, first semester, 1.6 GPA. Dude. First semester, bro. And when I tell you about feeling like failure, that was the like to my entire life. That time was the number one time I felt like a failure to my parents. I felt like I failed my last name. I felt like my future is completely done. Like, there's no way I'm gonna come back from it. Bro, I was on academic probation.
Oh, wow.
Like, dude, there's no way I can tell my parents this. Like, there's no way. And I was depressed for about a week and a half. And I cried, and it was crazy, right? And then I realized that, no one is gonna save you except you. Like, I really realized that, right? Because when you go to college, you realize, yeah, you can call your parents, but at the end of the day, you got to figure it out. Yeah. So I realized that early, like, hey, you have to figure this out. So I got back and I said, okay, I hate electrical engineering. I need to move to something else. And I ended up choosing information systems. It wasn't computer science, but I felt like this is something good enough that my parents would be like, okay, at least he's still doing something in STEM, right?
Yeah.
And ended up choosing that. It didn't have any math, it didn't have much coding, anything like that. It was more of like business systems and stuff, and being able to use systems to integrate in business stuff like that. So I ended up doing that. But my GPA was so low that I couldn't really compete unless I started bringing it back up. So for the next 4 years, I did summer classes for 4 years. I stayed in USA for 4 years, didn't go home, and I worked my butt off what was driving me was that I wanted to become a professional athlete. For me to become a professional athlete, I need to make sure my grades are up and doing well enough. And I also, in the back of my head, I always felt this doesn't work. My GPA needs to at least be good enough to where I can get a job somehow, right?
Yeah.
So long story short, I ended up graduating with a 3.3 GPA, which is insane. Like I put in
a come up,
insane amount of work, right? And I kept on trying to get A's and B's to average out that D's that I had those first semester. But yeah, I ended up graduating with a 3.3 and graduated with top in the country for athletics, right? And the thing about being an international student in USA, which it can be a whole different podcast we can talk about, right?
Yeah.
There's a life of maneuvering the life of an international athlete, the international student. And that's tough, right? You get there's a lot of limitations. There's things that you can't do. And you always have to be thinking, this is why I learned to be strategic. You have to be thinking 2-3 years in advance, because for me, being a professional athlete, if I came back home, I wouldn't have any of these resources that I had. So for me, I was like, I have to try and stay in USA as long as I can. I don't know what's going to be. You have to work, or you have to go back to school or whatever, right? That. So as a sophomore, I had the pressures of thinking, what's going to happen after I graduate? What's going to happen after I graduate? What's going to happen? I had to keep thinking that, what's happening? And that adds a lot of stress to you as a sophomore, being a student athlete and trying to cover with school, right? So what I did was, my last semester, I had a capstone project, and they said, you can work with any organization. So I decided to work with the sports department, right? And as like IT support, it wasn't really much, but because my degree was information system, I had to work with some organization, something. And because I'm an athlete in the sports department, they just put me down like, okay, yeah, you can work with them. So during that time, I almost used that as like an internship, right? And I worked my butt off in that job to let them know that I strategically positioned myself to like, I know this is just for the class, but I want this to turn into something after, right? So I did the work, worked my butt off, and at the end of the class, and I graduated, right? At the end, I was like, okay, I think I'm going to do my master's, because my master's will give me like 2-3 more years. But the question was, how the heck was I going to pay for this, right? So I did the boldest thing I've ever done. And how they say, like, if you don't ask, you're not going to get?
Yeah.
I sent an email to the director of sports of the sports department. And I said, listen, Olympics is next year, and I want to continue to stay in USA so I can continue to push towards becoming an Olympics. But if I go home, I wouldn't be able to get the resources, right? I've been here for 4 years. I've done so much, for the school, going to Big 12 champion, went to nationals and, first team All-American and stuff like that. And I said, I would like to be able to see there's an opportunity to work in the sports department, in the IT full time, right? And maybe that can give me something in my pocket. Obviously, that wasn't going to pay full time my 2-year degree. So I sent that email, bro. It took me like a week to even block the email, bro. I was like, should I send this? Like, is this asking for too much?
Yeah.
And I sent the email. I didn't get no reply for about a week. And then after a week, the director, bro, of the sports department called me to his office. It's like, listen, you know what I was doing for the last week? I was like, what? I was talking to your coaches. I was talking to your friends. I was talking to doing a background check of you. Like, what? He's like, yeah. And he's like, everything they said of you has been positive, and you have been a great asset to the school. He's like, what we're going to do? We're going to create a position, a GA position, graduate assistant position for you. And we're going to pay for your master's degree free, bro. When this dude told me this, I was like, ain't no way. I was like, yo. So I was like, so for the next 2 years, it was an MBA, by the way, Master's of Business Administration. I did that for 2 years, and I was able to work with the sports departments in the IT department, just assisting them and part-time, and then being a full-time student, getting that fully paid for. But at that time, I also went pro. So I was juggling being a professional athlete, being a master's student, and also working part-time in the IT department, bro.
Crazy.
How the heck were you doing it? And you never know what you're capable of doing unless you're put in the position where you have to do it for you to reach that goal and succeed, right?
Yeah.
And I was juggling all those 3 things. And to me, it just felt like, it wasn't that hard, because as a student athlete, you almost was doing the same thing. I was being a student and being an athlete. So I did that. And for 2 years, so at this time I was in USA for about 7 years. And then once I graduated my master's degree, I ended up doing something called OPT, which is optional practitioner training, where you can do 1 year of work on your student visa, right? You're not in school anymore, but you can work at an organization, in your organization related to your past degree. So that's what I did, right? I ended up working for an organization called ProCopy, where what they did was they sold copiers, they sold printers and stuff like that.
Right.
And I didn't know anything about printers, bro. I had to upskill about printers in like 1 month, learn everything about printers, learn about the print speed, paper. Like, I was like, yo, you watched The Office before? I had to know everything that Dwight knows.
Wild.
That's who I was, bro. I had to upskill. But it was pretty cool because the people who I worked for was like 5 guys, but all of them were like 50 years and older. And I was like 20 something. And when I came in, they basically gave me the reins, bro. They told me, do whatever you want. We give you the reins, change up stuff. And what I did was I created a department, IT support department, right? They were just selling copiers, but I realized that our clients, small organizations were like, lawyers, people, private businesses, they had IT infrastructure that they didn't have an IT department. So I was like, why don't we actually give our clients, our small clients, IT support, provide that service for them? So I completely built out a whole department, bro, IT support department for them. And this was just in 1 year. And after that, the organization decided to apply for my H-1B visa, which gives you 3 years to work freely in USA, right? You wouldn't believe what happened. This is where my life changed, because I was like, this is the trajectory, this is the plan. God, this is what we're going to be doing. At this time, I had the person who I was with, who was my girlfriend at the time, who also went to school with me, also was in the track team. We're going to get married. It's going to be cool. Applied for the H-1B, and that was during the time when that person was in power. And
right.
It was a lot, bro. There was a lot of denies, right? They were denying a lot of international people. And my case got denied, bro. And at that point, I was like, dude, everything I've built, I had to go home within 30 days.
Wow.
And people were telling me, I talked to a lot of people were telling me, dude, why don't you just hurry up, get married, and then file for green card? I was like, nah, like I hold marriage at such a high standard that I'm not going to try and rush that process. Just stay in US. Like, if it's going to work out, like, God is going to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
So 2020, that was during COVID time too. Came back home, right? And I didn't know what I was going to do.
Damn.
But I got offered an opportunity to become a sports event project manager, right? So at the sports commission in my country, Turks and Caicos. So the sports commission governs all the different sporting bodies like soccer, football, basketball, softball, and we govern them, right? So when I came in, they said, because you've seen the biggest events in the world championship, you've gone to Commonwealth Games and stuff like that. You've seen a stadium with 60,000 people. You've seen how the athlete experiences. You've seen from the backside, because you were working with a sports department in your school where they have football games every week with over 50,000 people. Now, our whole population in Turks and Caicos is 50,000. So listen, we think that you can bring to life what you've seen here, even if you don't have project management experience, because somebody locally who has project management experience won't be able to bring to life what you can, because you've seen it, right? So they felt if we empower you, you can bring it to life. So I did that and got the job. I remember I prayed to God. I was like, yo, I don't have no project management experience. I still have to go through the interview phase. If I get this job, you have to empower me for me to be able to do it, because there's no way to do this, right? Yeah. So I got the job during COVID. My first assignment was to host the first track and field championship coming out of COVID, the first event, sporting event. I was like, dude, there's no way these people want me to do this. Because
that's crazy.
During COVID, they had project managers with 10 years, 20 years of experience who didn't know what to do. Like, COVID was so crazy.
Yeah.
What I did was, I got information from how the NBA was doing it, how FIFA was doing it. I got their rules, their regulations. I created this thick document. This is how we're going to pull this off. We got to test the students every single day, because it was like a 3-day event. And it was crazy, right? And I did that in like the first 3 months I was there. It was great. It was cool. But it set the tone that almost every single event after that was almost at that same high level, right?
Yeah.
And after about 5 months in, I realized that being an athlete and being athletic administration are two different things.
Yeah.
And I realized that this was not long term. This is not something I want to be in as a career. But I still loved it, because I came back home and I was able to give back and able to pour into our, locally and stuff like that. But at this time, after about 1 year, I was burnt out, dude. Like, we were unstaffed. We were very low staff. We were pulling miracles almost at every single event. And you have an event almost every single week. So think about after 5 miracles you pull, there's only so much miracles you can pull. Tear out your head, right? And start like, it was just too much. And also at that point, I was still a professional athlete. I was still training. I was still waking up in the morning, going to the track, training for 3 hours, going to work, finishing work, coming back, going to lift weights, and then coming home like 7 p.m. And 5 months into that job, I got married. So my wife actually flew down to Turks and Caicos to live with me. So we were here and she was working fully remote, right? So it didn't work out because she would be home the entire day. I'll leave home at 6 a.m. I won't come back to like 7. And I'll be exhausted from work, exhausted from training. And when I come home, she hasn't seen me. So she's ready to play and I'm exhausted. It just wasn't working, bro. And the stress from the job was pouring. I was taking it home. And I realized, this is not sustainable. There's no way I can continue this, right? And the job that I had was for 2 years. And it was a 2-year contract. And I felt anything you do more than 2 years becomes a career. So I was like, I have to position myself not to re-sign this contract, because the minute I re-sign it, it becomes a career. And I was like, I can't stay there doing this because it's not sustainable. It was just too much stress, too much. I was adding too much pressure on my family, too much pressure on me mentally, bro. I developed something. I don't know if you know, but like I started grinding my teeth in the night from stress, bro. Yeah. When that started happening, I was like,
it's time to go.
My health, bro. There's no way. Like, I can't do that. There's no way, right? And every weekend, I would travel to another island to host an event. Almost every weekend, right? So I was away from my home, away from my wife. She was home alone a lot. And I was like, this is not sustainable. This is not something long-term. So after about 1 year there, I started strategizing my exit. Like, how am I going to get out, right? And I didn't know where to go. Like, I didn't even look back at tech. At this point, after my degree in 2016, that was the last, time I really had, engraved inside courses in IT and stuff like that. So I was almost like 5 years removed from anything that has to do with real IT.
Yeah.
So some people may say, dude, why didn't you just go into tech? But think about graduating from college and with a computer science degree and not doing anything computer science related for 5 years. You're not gonna, dude, there's no way you're gonna remember anything.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to almost start from scratch again, right? So I wasn't even thinking of IT, I wasn't thinking of tech. But what I did was I wrote down the 3 things I wanted for my career. Whatever it was. I broke it down into 3. I wanted some freedom, right? Freedom to be able to either work remote, freedom to be able to take time off, travel, or just not being so tied down to a job. Right. The next thing was flexibility, which also ties to freedom, right? Being able to work remote, being able to talk to my boss and it's easy. The work-life balance is pretty cool. And then the last one was sustainability, right? Being able to sustain my family because, planning on having kids, like there's no way I'm gonna stay in the same situation. I need something that's gonna sustain us and my generation. And then the last thing was that I needed something challenging. Right? I didn't want something easy. I needed something that was going to be mentally stimulate me and stuff like that. And at that point, I was also coming to the tail end of my career as a professional athlete. And as an athlete, man, there's something that's just innate in us that our drive and our passion is just at an intense high level, and it's sustained at that level for a long time. So I knew whatever career I was going in, if I was going to finish with track, I needed to be able to pour myself into something else at that level, right? Or else I just wouldn't feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
So after doing all of that and breaking it down to those 4, bro, everything was pointed to tech. Tech is going to give you all of this. Tech is going to give you all of that. I'm like, all right, I guess I'm going to go back to what the heck I studied before. I didn't really understand anything. So what I did was, I feel like the hardest part of people who want to transition to tech is figuring out which area they want to get into.
Yeah.
That is like the hardest part. And people tend to go all over the place and end up coming right back or spend too much time or whatever, right? Like you need to be able to find out as efficient as possible the place where you're going to be and then full commit to that area.
Yeah.
So for me, I didn't know where I wanted to be. So I felt like, I'm going to spread my wings and touch many areas lightly, not too deep. And then maybe I can find my area from there, right? So what I did, I started out with getting certifications, like A+ certification, Network Plus certification, and Security Plus certification. And I felt like that was giving me a structured roadmap for me to understand these different things, right? A+, Network Plus, Security Plus is literally the foundation of technology in general. A+, the components of systems. Network Plus is how how systems communicate, and Security Plus is how you secure systems, right?
Mhm.
From here, you get a real broad fundamental of tech. All right. So I did those 3 certifications. I did it in like we did it in like 4 months, right? Back then, I didn't know or fathom how crazy it was.
Yeah.
I went inside like a group chat on Facebook and I said, yo, I just got the trifecta and I got it in like 4 months. People were blowing me up. Like, yo, how the heck? Because A plus is 2 exams. Like,
Yeah.
they were like, yo, how the heck did you get these 3 certifications in 4 months? And I didn't really understand how crazy it was. But I do remember the maniacal position I took
Yeah.
to study. Like I would study, I would come back home from like 7 and I would study from like 7 to 12 or 1 every single. And then I would, during lunchtime at work, I used to separate, go study.
Yeah.
On Saturdays when my friends wanted to go out, bro, from morning to night, I'm studying. Sunday, go to church. When I come back, studying, bro. And it came to a point to where work started to become a burden. And I was like,
yeah,
I'm working, bro. Like this is like I used to be like, man, y'all don't understand how much I work when I could just study. So like Saturdays when I didn't have work was the days that I would go hard, bro.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize it until later, but I was practicing something called I can't remember what it's called, man. I'll have to tell you later.
Is it a delayed gratification?
Yeah, that too. There's a certain type of a study method that you go through. There's a book on it, man.
It's the Feynman.
God, I can't remember what it is. But it's basically studying insanely, but with a strategic goal in mind. Right. And being so like you have your goal so pinpointed that everything is directly towards that goal, but you're studying at like a super high level, persistent for like months to understand the thing at a high level.
On this channel, I talk a lot about breaking into cybersecurity. And with my recent experience going over the new Google and Microsoft cybersecurity courses, I can vouch for these programs and their credibility. And I've done multiple videos on the channel about them. So if you'd like to try either or both of these courses, use the link in the description to get a 7-day free trial to get started.
Is it Ultra Learning? Sorry, is it Ultra Learning?
Ultra Learning, bro.
Yes,
that is it. That is it, bro. I was practicing Ultra Learning for like 4 months, bro.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it until my wife showed me the book. She was and I read it. I was like, yo, this is exactly what I've been doing.
Exactly. Yeah. Amazing book.
Oh man. So wow, that's crazy that you know that book. So after those 4 months, I got the foundation, but I still didn't know where to go.
Yeah.
But what I realized is that cloud kept on popping up as I was studying. It kept on coming up. This is the prevalent thing. This is the new thing. This is what everybody's getting into. And I was like, okay, this everybody's talking about. It has to be something, right? I checked it out, and I checked it out first, and I was like, okay, cool. This is interesting. I checked it out more. I went deeper, bro. The deeper I went into it, I was like, yo, my mind was just like, yo, there's no way this is how this thing works. Because after doing Network Plus and Security Plus, there's a lot of hardware, on-premise stuff that they're teaching you. So this cloud thing was like, well, there's no way this thing is working like that. So the deeper I got into it, the more interest I got into it, the more understanding I got into it, the more I developed passion for it, right? So I always tell people, you don't necessarily need passion for you to transition to tech or be in a specific area. All you need is interest. Once you're interested inside it, you can explore it. Once you explore it, once you start hitting roadblocks, like the deeper you get and you start trying stuff out and you hit a roadblock, but once you hit that roadblock, you pass the roadblock, and once you pass it, you realize that your interest increases.
Yes.
And you keep doing that over and over, then you develop passion, right?
Yeah.
You develop passion for something. And I always use my example to others is like, sometimes I feel like the cloud found me. I didn't necessarily go for it. And the only way I was in that position for cloud to find me was that I had to start first, but not necessarily with a goal, but at least I tried out, explored different areas. And sometimes you have to explore different areas for you to find the area for you, right?
Yeah.
And that is exactly what happened to me. And once I decided, cloud is where I want to be, I ended up doing the Azure 900, the fundamentals exam. After I realized this is for me, like I'm gonna go into this. Did that certification, failed, bro. I was like, yo, what the heck? Network Plus, Security Plus. I'm loving cloud, and I do this certification, and I fail. Like at that point, I was like, man, is this really for me, bro? And then I was like, you know what? The athlete in me is like, there's no way this exam is going to defeat me. Like, I'm going to come back and I'm going to complete it. I'm going to annihilate this.
Yeah.
And I went back to the drawing board, did what I needed to do, came back and completely destroyed the exam. To where I look back to myself, I'm like, what the heck did I study the first time, bro? Because I destroyed it the second time, right? And then but I still wasn't convinced that cloud was for me until I switched and did the AWS CCP. Once I did the AWS CCP and I passed that, that's when I was like, I made a grand statement like, no matter what happens, I'm going to become a cloud engineer. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
Yes.
And that's how I decided, you know, I wanted to become a cloud engineer. And now the thing is, there's a lot of people who have decided to do that, but the journey literally just starts there, right?
Yeah.
So for me, you can say my journey started from the time I just decided to just branch out to tech and just where am I going to be. But my cloud journey started when I took those 2 certs and I decided this is what I'm going to do the rest of my life. And that's when I became committed into cloud engineering, Googling it, researching it, watching people like you, people like Gwen. I was like, okay, what the heck is this thing? What is it for in life? What do they do? What type of mentality should you have to be in this type of job? What type of tools do you need? What type of mindset?
Yeah.
And I just went towards it, right? I went and got the Solutions Architect Associate Cert, which is a very popular one. It gave me a lot of insights of being able to build, you know, scalable, durable, just being able to build on AWS, put many different services together and build some type of infrastructure, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, this is cool. Did a couple of hands-on labs, projects. And after I finished that cert, I started applying to roles. Nobody gave me the light of day, bro. Nothing. And I know a lot of people fall into that trap to where you feel like you do an associate cert, especially AWS, and then you start applying and you think that, you know, that's enough. That should be enough for you to at least get a call back.
Yeah.
But it's not, right? Because I found that these organizations, they want people let me put it like this. Anybody can study for cert for 3 months, 2 months and pass, right? But if I give you a problem or if you have a problem, are you able to solve that problem at a high level, being an engineer and being able to put things together? Like, can you do that? And if you can't, you can't really learn that from certifications, doing multiple choice exams and stuff like that. You have to learn that from either work experience or doing a lot of projects and hitting roadblocks, troubleshooting and figuring it out by yourself, Googling it and stuff like that, because those certifications aren't going to show you the detailed stuff when you're trying to spin up an EC2 instance and then something happens and you have to troubleshoot that. You can't connect to it. How do you connect to it? You got to figure it out, go through the troubleshooting process. Like, they don't teach you that stuff. It's only through experience. And, you know, I started doing some hands-on projects, but it came to a point to where I didn't know where else to go. I just couldn't do anything else, right? And that's when I started researching, figuring out, okay, what can help me get to where I need to get? And that's when I started looking at boot camps, right? I wasn't looking at a boot camp, but one boot camp kept on coming up on my timeline. And that was Level Up in Tech. And I saw it a couple of times, but I just brushed it over. I'm like, nah, I don't need that, right? This costs too much money. I don't know how much it costs at that point. But it came to a point where I asked myself, you know, I literally asked myself, what are you willing to sacrifice for the possibility of changing your life?
Yeah.
Nothing's ever guaranteed, right? For the possibility.
Yeah.
And when I asked myself that, I was like, dude, you gotta be willing to do anything.
Yeah.
You gotta not anything, but you gotta be willing to do any reasonable thing to sacrifice so you can change your life, right? And that's when I made a decision, like, I'm gonna join Level Up in Tech. To me, I wasn't joining Level Up in Tech to give me a job. I was joining Level Up in Tech to say, this is the medium that I'm going to completely, whatever they give me, I'm going to remix it and take it to the next level. That by the time I'm done, I don't care who's with me in the who starts with me. By the time I'm done, I'm going to be in such a position to where I increase the possibilities for me to be able to run the role, right? So that was the mentality I came into, because a lot of people go into boot camps and they think, you know, I'm just going to do what they give me and I should be able to get a job. But nah, you should be thinking way above that. Because the thing is, the people who you start the boot camp with is also your competition once you get out.
Yeah.
So you got to be thinking like above that. And I think that part of the boot camp, me being a professional athlete, the mentality that I have, the drive that I have, and the passion that I have, being in that industry, all I did was channel that same energy into the boot camp. right? And I took it, like literally took it to the next level. Like they, they'll tell you, connect with this amount of people, post 3 times a week on what you're learning. Man, I was posting 2 times a day. 6 months, dude.
Yeah,
Think
man.
about 24 weeks, you're posting 2 times a day about what you learned. Somebody's gonna notice you, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, of course somebody's gonna notice you. So like whatever they gave me I felt like that's a template. Like I need to change this up and take it to the next level.
Yeah.
That's what I did. And I started realizing that during that time in the program was when I think I got a good grasp of what it means to journey to become a cloud engineer. Right?
Yeah.
What it means to be a cloud engineer. I learned a lot of stuff about networking, a lot of stuff about, you're learning so much in this program, but if nobody knows what you're doing, you're just a caveman making fire in a cave.
Yeah.
If nobody knows you just created fire in a cave, then it doesn't make any sense, right? So like whatever you're building, people have to know and see you. You have to be at the top of the mind for people to know, right? And I took that mentality and I said, okay, people gonna know me. People gonna hear me. People gonna know my story. People go and I started posting about that. After like the first 2 months in the program, I realized that I started getting hit from both sides. By both sides, I mean like people who were trying to do the same thing I was doing, transition to cloud engineer, started asking me for advice, and I'm like, dude, I don't know none. I'm only here for 2 months, bro. I'm not even a cloud engineer yet, right? But I realized that you gotta understand that some people, there is value of someone who's just one step ahead of you. Right? Because think about it, if someone passed a certification last month and another person passed the same certification 2 years ago, who do you think is going to be best to ask for advice? The person who just passed the certification, right? Because it's new in their mind. They just went through it. They can tell you exactly how they felt. The information is fresh, and they can give it to you as they're going through it, right? So a lot of people were asking me for advice, and I was giving them advice based on what I knew. I always tell them, I say, listen, I'm not a cloud engineer yet, but I'm giving you advice based on my journey so far. This is what's been working. This has not been working. And then what I also realized is that other engineers who are in the industry for 4 years, 10 years, started giving me mentorship. I wasn't even asking for it. I was like, oh, shit. People be messaging me like, yo, this project is nice. You can make it better by doing this. You can make it more secure by doing this. And I'll take all that information and I'll add it. And then I'll develop in this huge amount of network, right? So I was very strategic because for me, I felt like, listen, if I post for 6 months, 24 weeks, by the end of the program, I already drafted that I'm open to work post. I drafted that post like 2 months before I was done, right?
Yeah.
To make that post, I have to make sure I'm in the best position that post reaches as much people as it can to increase my possibilities to get a job. Yeah. So at the end of the program, I posted that I'm open to work, right? It was a long post, whatever, put my picture on it so people know who I am and stuff like that. And within like, I would say it went semi-viral. It didn't even go crazy viral. It went semi-viral. And within a week, I got a message from someone basically saying, hey, I saw that you're open to work. I saw the post that you're open to work, and I think you'd be a great addition to a cloud engineering team. Yeah. And I was like, oh, cool. Who is this? Is this a recruiter? Is this a hiring manager? I'm like, okay, cool. When I opened up the message, it was the CEO of Security Blue Team, right? I was like, hold up. Ain't no way, right? Yeah. I'm like, dude, what? Because this is not a regular person in the organization. This is the CEO telling you that, right? So I was so excited. Like, he asked me, would you ever do an interview? And I was so excited. I was driving. I was like, nah, I can't do an interview right now, but maybe the next hour. And he was like, no, we can schedule next week. Okay, cool. Let's schedule next week. Bro, I did 2 interviews. The first one was with the manager, which is my manager now. And the second one was with the CEO and the manager. And it was very casual interviews, but it wasn't much technical. It was more of trying to see if I was a good fit for the team, right? Yeah. And during the interviews, I was asking them, why did you guys reach out to me? And they basically said, well, one, the post that I made was very well articulated, right? And I was very strategic. That is exactly what I tried to do. He's like, I've seen a lot of posts that says I'm open to work, but once they read it, they saw the work I've done, they saw the certification I've done. They was like, okay, this person has actually put in a lot of work for them to be able to be in a position to ask someone to take a chance for them, right? Because really and truly, when you're trying to transition to a job, I like to say this, but bro, you're literally begging for an organization to take a chance on you, right?
Yeah.
You have no experience, you have no nothing.
Yeah.
It's solely on potential, right? And I also attached my portfolio to the post, and he clicked on it. Bro, I literally got hired because of one project I did that had to do with Python and Lambda. When he saw that project, he said, this is exactly what we do. And he saw the documentation of how clear it was. He's like, yeah, we need to get this guy, right? He gave me the whole play. He said he went to the manager, which is Trevor is my manager right now. And he basically said, he asked them, if we need to, get this person. At that point, they weren't hiring. There wasn't an open role, right? So they basically created the role for me, bro, out of thin air. Right? And it's just amazing, the entire process, what happened. I'm still in shock. They have never seen my resume because they didn't have to. They haven't received a resume from me. They didn't have to. They saw my portfolio. They saw my LinkedIn. They talked to me. And within a week, bro, of that post, I had an offer to work at Creative Boutique.
Wow.
I wasn't even done with the program yet. I still had one more month left at development.
Wow.
It's the thing is, the way how it happened, people call that luck, right?
Yeah.
If you look at everything that happened before, I had to be in a position to be able to capitalize on that luck, right? Because if you're not in the right position, equipped for you to be able to do it, you can't capitalize on it. If the opportunity came and I wasn't ready, there's no way I could have gotten it. But the opportunity came, I was ready, and now it equals luck. But I call it favor of God, man.
Yeah, man. Insane. Insane, man. That is just, I have heard your story before, but you narrating it like live in front of me and hearing all the nuances like from the beginning up until this point is just, I am mind blown. Like that is so insane, man. Like, and again, I can relate to some of it, we're both Nigerians, we both come from Nigeria. And then, moving down to a foreign country or being like a student here or being like a international student or like an immigrant in the United States, like the struggles that come with that. But man, like everything you've just described is just like, you can't categorize this as luck. Like this is not something that you just got lucky. Like you made your own luck essentially. Like from even like, because I was taking some notes while you were talking. Like I remember when you said, not having like structured training while you were an athlete, right? And you building out your own training regimen to get yourself to a point of being like a very strong athlete before someone else took a chance on you. And then I thought about it again to like, okay, like you essentially did the same thing when you got into cloud. Like you basically like, you did your own labs, you took everything you had from that boot camp and like literally 5 times did and like built your own like learning program and created the opportunity for yourself for someone to take a chance on you. And like even everything around like all the pressure that you went through, whether it was like an athlete or as a student or just like after school, like everything that life came with and how that just helped you really hone in and focus like your abilities, your knowledge, your time, your efforts into something and eventually get to this point. Like it's just so mind-blowing. And I really like this kind of conversation because I relate to a lot of it because I think some of us like in this industry have a very similar mindset as to like really just like choosing something and going ham on it and just like going crazy on it. And seeing the results is just amazing, man. And I want to say this first and foremost, like I'm super proud of you for everything you've done, man. Like it's incredible. Like just seeing the whole journey on LinkedIn or Twitter and hearing it from you directly is just so completely different. And it's really amazing like how far you've come. And I'm super excited for what your future is gonna look like. I thought I was gonna have to ask like various questions, but I'm so glad that I gave you the entire stage to just like share your story because sometimes people you said it yourself. You said sometimes people ask you like, how are you able to combine so many things? How are you able to do this and do that? But it's like you've been putting in, even before you got into cloud, you've been putting on a lot of work into everything you were doing like 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago when you were doing your athletic stuff as to now like when you're doing it for cloud. Like it's not much different. It's just an entirely different thing. They're putting in the same level of work and attention and effort into, and just the amount of work that goes into anything, but even transitioning into tech or transitioning into cloud is a lot. But you've shown that if you put your mind aspire to something, if you put in the work, like if you put in actual work, like hard work, smart work, all of that, you create your own luck essentially. And it's just amazing like how everything worked out. And man, I thought like, okay, I'm gonna ask you about like boot camps, ask you about certifications, ask you about college, like, but you've really just explained everything in such an amazing way. Like it's just amazing, man. And I don't even have any questions to ask you, man. Like, I don't have any more questions to ask you. But I do have one question for you though, because you've had an impressive track record, from being a pro athlete and now being like an amazing cloud engineer at one of the biggest cybersecurity training companies out there. What is next for you? What is the future looking like for you? Because like you said there's something about athletes, right? And I think I feel like it's normal. I'm going to keep pointing back to it because like that's where your background is from. But something about athletes is like you're able to perform exceptionally at a high level for a very long period of time. Yeah. And you only just started in your cloud career.
Perfectly. Oh God.
No, dude, like you only just started your career. So this is just the beginning for you. Like what is next for you?
Yeah. Oh man, dude, you just said it perfectly, right? And the thing is that a lot of people think, the transition was different as being an athlete to cloud engineer.
Yeah.
But the mindset and mentality was actually the same.
Yes.
I applied the same discipline, the same persistency, being relentless in whatever you're doing, making sure you're excellent in everything you're doing to the smallest details, right? Because as an athlete, you can't cheat the game. Right?
Yeah.
You can work hard, but it's going to show when you go to compete, because the thing is, track and field is a performance sport. So it's not like basketball where you can be skilled and maybe you don't have to be the best in condition. Once you can shoot, you just go to the line and shoot, and it's more skill. Track and field is performance. It means every single day, if you don't put in that work and you go out there, it's gonna show, right? Yeah. So it's like I just changed that and put into like my studies, the work, into being a cloud engineer. And even now, right, I want to say it's a game, but every single thing, every task that I get, even my manager just says that's one of my strengths, is that I can focus on one thing from end to end and complete it. And a lot of times I try to do it, without much help until, I reach some type of roadblock and I say, yo, assist me on this. But he allows me to try it and try to do it myself. And most of the time I complete it. I do it, right? Because I always want to see how I can do this by myself.
Yeah.
Test myself, push myself to the limits, trying to see how far I can go.
Yeah.
Before you can step in and kind of help me. And I think that has helped me in my journey in general, right? But to your question of what's next is, I feel like even though I'm just 6 months into my career, I feel like my reach and my voice has been so big and has so much weight that it's going forward further than what I've already done so far, right?
Yeah.
And I'm looking at how I can channel that voice, channel who I am, whether it's a brand or Ifani, either you're the cloud engineer or just me as in general, how I can channel that to, one, impact other people, because that's like the number one thing for me, being able to impact people positive way and give people hope. Right?
Yeah.
So I feel like almost everyone is lacking hope and wants hope and is searching for hope, and cultivating that to be able to be that much of an impact, right? That's me as the person, me as the personality, me as the voice, me as a cloud engineer, as my career. It's almost like the same thing as before, to where I am trying to put my hands in many different things, because I don't want to just solely say I want to focus on this, because that's very close-minded, especially since I'm just entering the industry. So I'm trying to like dabble in many different things, find what interests me. Whatever interests me, I'll go into it, right? Right now, what interests me is loving Python. I'm loving automation using Lambda, and I definitely love DevOps, right? DevOps practices, right?
Yeah.
Another thing, because I'm working in security blue team, being engulfed and being every single day with security, it's been interesting to me, right? And we have like thorough of courses, of resources, and what I get for free, right? So I'm like, might as well start using it. Might as well start trying to, upskill in it, get more information on it. But I think for me, this can go into the question of when organizations ask you, where do you see yourself in 5 years, right? I think where I see myself in 5 years, being somewhere where I can have huge, audacious ideas, think big, and like not and being able to continuous development, somewhere where I can continue to develop and want like try to put me in one route, continue to develop somewhere I can try many big things and then be impactful. I don't necessarily want, people always ask me, do you want to be an individual contributor or manager? I don't know. I don't necessarily want the weight that comes with managing, but I do love motivating and mentoring people.
Yeah.
And I do realize you can also do that as an individual contributor, right?
Yes.
So I'm thinking that may be the route I go through, but obviously that can evolve into maybe me actually wanting to mentor and be a manager and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I definitely want to be somewhere where, like I said, somewhere where I'm able to think big, being able to try many different things and fail and try again. And then also being able to be somewhere where I'm challenged. And when I'm challenged, what's the other thing I said? Just somewhere where I know that whatever ideas I have, I can at least attempt to try and make it happen, right?
Yeah.
And the last thing I said was being able to develop and continue somewhere where continue to develop. And I'm, like I said, back to when I was young, I can't really do one thing forever.
Yeah.
I gotta be able to touch many different things, and that's just what drives me. That's just what I like. Like I gotta do many different things, right? I think it's part of my personality.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that looks. I don't know what that is, but God knows my desire of being able to, all falls down to being able to be very impactful to an organization, to a product, and to people.
Yeah, man. You are going to do amazing things in this industry, man. I am super excited for where you're going to go and what you're gonna do. Like, man, even in just the next 6 months, the next year, the next 2 years, 5 years, like you're going to do amazing. And I'm just super excited to see it because it's just been amazing. Just seeing where you've come from, seeing where you are now, and just seeing your mindset into the future. That it's just gonna be it's just gonna be an amazing sight to watch, man. Like I'm super happy that somewhere along this journey, like your path and my path crossed. We both crossed paths, and someone I could refer to as a colleague or a friend, and I'm somewhat part of that journey, and just like seeing where this is going to go is just amazing, man. And I'm super excited for it. I know I'm saying this over and over again because I'm just mind blown, but this has been an incredible episode, man. Like it's probably like one of the episodes where I'm dumbfounded. I don't know what to say. Like dude, like I'm serious though. Like I came with, we discussed like a high level of what we're gonna do in the conversation, but everything that I was gonna ask, I don't even have to ask it because like your story is the episode essentially, and I just love how you've articulated it. You told us where you came from, you told us where you are, you told us where you're going, and this is gonna be super helpful to people out there who are looking to transition from anything, because this is not someone who transitioned, like we see stories about people who transition from like whether it's like a doctor or like a nurse or like a banker and accountant, whatever. You came from the high level of being a pro athlete to not becoming a cloud engineer, and you're going so fast and so far. It's so amazing that so many people from different aspects or walks of life can take that knowledge, that motivation, your story, and apply it to their own journey and just go become rock stars as well. And I think even though right now, like you have a voice, right? You have a voice, whether it's on LinkedIn, on Twitter, like even with like podcasts like this, like your voice is going to serve as mentorship as well to several people, because you said it yourself, like when you were going through your journey, like there were several people like online, whether people you were watching or interacting with, that gave you some sort of mentorship. Like this alone, you're gonna see people in the comment section like, dude, like your story like helped me transition into cloud security, or your story helped me transition into cloud, your story helped me get started. This people are gonna see this, are gonna get some level of that mentorship and that impact that you're looking to make, that even the impact you're gonna make as maybe an individual contributor or a manager, like you could probably only impact like 3-4 people at a time, but this is gonna reach like thousands of people, man. I am so grateful for you coming on this, doing this with me, and sharing your story and putting everything out there, and I really appreciate your time, and I'm super excited for the future, and hopefully we could even have you back as a return guest like sometime in the future when you're doing like bigger things. And
for sure. Oh my God,
it would be amazing, man. Do you have any final words you wanna put out there before we end the episode?
Dude, well, thank you, man, for even bringing me on here. Shoot, before I even get to the last word, like early next year, because I go back from Turks and Caicos to Texas, but early next year, the first quarter, me and my wife are permanently moving to US.
Let's go.
Texas, Dallas area. I know that's where
yes.
So
yes.
Definitely gotta
we're definitely gonna do that.
But last words, man. I'm gonna say my entire journey came from always believing that the impossible is possible, right?
Mm.
And no matter what other people think, you have to believe and you have to decide that, this is what I'm going to do. No matter what the outside looks like, no matter what you see, if you have it in your head and you have a vision, you have a dream and you have a goal, you have to decide, this is what I'm going to do, right?
Yeah.
I didn't even talk about it, but I've done a lot of first time things in my country and in my family. I've done a lot of first time things. I have the national record for long jump for the entire country history, right? So I've done many things. First, I'm the first cloud engineer in the entire country. I'm the first AWS community builder from Turks and Caicos. Like, I've done so many things for the first time. And if I look back at it, some of those things just happened, right? Because I was believing. And if I look back, like when I was doing it, when I was studying, when I was grinding, people around me in Turks and Caicos in a small country were like, dude, what are you doing? Like, where are you trying to go? And at that time, I couldn't really explain it to them. I just told them, listen, I'm doing something that you may not understand, but I believe I can do it. And people just thought I was crazy, bro. I was studying like a maniac. Like, what are you doing, bro? Like, why aren't you coming out in the weekends? But I knew that this is what I wanted to do. And it's going to happen some way, somehow, right? In Turks and Caicos, there is literally no cloud engineer, right? I went to what's supposed to be the most technological organization in Turks and Caicos, which is an electrical company. And I did an interview with them. I asked them, when are you guys thinking about cloud? They said in the next 5 years. When I got that interview, that's when I realized I can't even get the resources I need to go where I need to go from my country, home, right?
Yeah.
And that's when I had to look internationally on the internet, on resources, Google and stuff like that, right? I didn't have tech meetups to go to. I didn't have these things to go to, right? I had to go to the internet. Everything was online. Joining Twitter groups, joining Facebook groups, joining, watching YouTube channels, content creators like Dave, like all these people, reading other people who give content out. Like, these were the resources I had to go to. And people think from the small Turks and Caicos, how are you going to land a job as a cloud engineer here? And I ended up landing fully global job. For an organization that works out from London. And I can stay in Turks and Caicos on the beach, chilling, and work as a cloud engineer. Like, do you know how crazy that's the impossible, right?
Yes.
And if I thought about it then, for other people, they would think there's no way that's going to happen. If I said this is how it's going to happen, they would have told me there's no way that's going to happen, right? And I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I just believed and I had a dream and I knew that nothing is impossible unto God. And that's what I use and that's what I pushed. And sometimes you just can't focus on the outside. You have to focus on within and what you believe and push forward. Relentless. I'm talking about relentless. Like, you got to go for this thing like it's the last thing you ever did. Right? And that's what I did. And that's the mentality I'm still taking with me now. And that's something for you guys to always, harbor on and take for the rest of your life.
My guy, you've made this episode very worth your time, my time, and everyone who has watched this so far's time. And I'm really grateful, for everything you've said. But we've come to the end of this episode. This has been amazing. We're definitely gonna hang out when you come to Dallas, probably even do a vlog and just like, maybe just, I don't know, like grab food or something, but we'll do something around that. Thank you so much for watching this video if you watched this far. And I hope you've gained a lot of insight into what it looks like coming from a different background and going into a technological field like cloud engineering. And thank you so much for doing this and sharing the story, putting it out there. Super excited for what the future looks like. But that's the end of this episode. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Peace.
Hey, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Cyber Stories podcast. We really appreciate your support. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to like and subscribe for future episodes and comment down below the one thing you learned from this podcast. Also, don't forget to check out the video description for various resources to kickstart or advance your cybersecurity career. You can also choose to binge on our previous episodes by clicking on this playlist on your screen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.